So which one is wrong?
C.
Why C?
D, sir.
Think about it. No? See, what did they say? All the graphs below are intended to represent the same motion. When they say same motion, it can be uniform motion or uniformly accelerated motion, something of that sort, right? Like, what are all the graphs that are given? If you see the first two graphs, they are velocity time graph. The first one is velocity time graph. If you observe this, here velocity and time, if you observe the velocity is increasing with respect to time, what kind of a motion is this? If velocity is decreasing with respect to time uniformly.
Retardation.
It is uniformly retarding. That's right. Okay. If you look at the velocity position, what is the equation? V square minus u square is equal to 2as. As the position is increasing, you can observe that the velocity is decreasing. Right? Again, it is increasing. So what does it represent? So this graph is also right. Okay. So what about the third graph? In third graph, what makes you feel that it is wrong? So in third graph, it is distance time graph. If you observe here, the distance is 0. At t is equal to 0, the distance is 0. Means it's starting from origin, accepted. But if I ask you, what is the slope of distance time graph? What will you say?
Velocity.
Velocity.
Slope of distance time is speed. Displacement time is velocity. So slope of distance time graph is going to give you speed. Right? So, but slope is nothing but, according to differentiation, what is slope? Slope is nothing but you draw a tangent at that particular point and derive it. So if you calculate the initial slope of this, how much is it coming out? The initial slope is coming out as 0. Okay. So, but in all other cases, if you observe, what is the initial slope? What is the initial velocity? But in all other cases, it is a non-zero value. So which graph represents wrong? For example, if you see the fourth one also, if you draw a tangent here, theta, tan theta is non-zero. Tan theta is slope, no. Tan theta is non-zero value. Means here also the velocity is non-zero. Which velocity? The initial velocity. So this is the only scenario where the initial velocity is 0. So what is the answer? It is C. Okay. So you can ask me, when a graph-based question is given and these kind of questions are asked, what we need to see? First, you need to, so what are all the checkpoints? Can you conclude it? So checkpoint is you need to see the graph is drawn between which two physical quantities. If it is velocity time graph, then your mind should immediately start thinking, for a velocity time graph, what does slope represent?
Acceleration.
Wait.
Slope represents acceleration. What does area represent?
Displacement.
Similarly, for velocity position graph, is there a concept of slope? So if there is a concept of slope, then how will you write it as? See, for a velocity time graph, slope is dv by dt. Means derivative of y with
Potential.
respect. Not potential.
Velocity gradient.
It's called velocity gradient, but that's a very, very rare question. Nobody asks it. So it's called as velocity gradient. Because gradient is another name for slope. Have this in your mind. Okay. Velocity gradient means if the velocity is changing with respect to distance, call it a velocity gradient. Area. So whenever you need to calculate area, whatever technique I'm telling you is not applicable only for physics. It is applicable for maths also, because we are using calculus. So area means product of y-axis and x-axis. So velocity into position, what does it represent? Is there any physical quantity which has unit meter square per second?
Oh.
All right. So we don't know. So it is not known to us. So there will be no question which is based on area. Similarly, for a distance time graph, slope is speed. Similarly, area. Area is distance into time, meter second. There is nothing. So area we don't consider at all. Similarly, you have acceleration time graph. What does slope give you? So slope is what? dA divided by no. Slope is not velocity. dA by dt. That is acceleration itself is changing with respect to time. This is not there in your syllabus, but you can have it in your mind. It's called as jerk. Like for example, you come on a lift when the lift is hitting the spring and stopping, right? You would have experienced a small jerk, right, before it comes to rest. You would have smooth one, it is fine, but there will be certain lifts where you will hit a jerk, right? That is the place where the acceleration itself is changing with respect to time. Then what is area? Area is what is velocity.
Velocity.
So put it in very simple terms, there are three physical quantities: displacement, velocity, and acceleration. Slope or differentiation gives you velocity. Velocity time graph, slope or differentiation gives you acceleration. Reverse, area or integration gives you velocity. Area or integration gives you displacement. So you can remember the small flow chart. And it is very, very important because most of the questions they will test based on graphs. Maybe not in this chapter, but at least you should have an idea of how to deal with graphs. Okay, I hope I'm clear, right? No confusion, right? Shall we proceed to the next problem?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you people think in terms of mathematics. Okay, this is a good problem. Think about this. I'll give you 2 minutes time. You share the idea that you get in your mind. See, if at all you're saying a particular option, I want logic for it. Proceed. An object is thrown vertically upwards. Which one of the following graphs correctly represents the velocity versus time? So observe the object is moving vertically upwards. Means it is moving under the influence of whom?
Gravity.
It is moving under the influence of gravity. So think of equations of motion in terms of gravity with proper sign convention and tell me.
Sir, is A even possible?
Why it is possible? Right? Because it is velocity. Like, why did you say it is not possible? Why do you think it is not
Because
possible?
time when the flow done is sir.
It will not happen. Yeah.
So A is wrong, sir.
A is definitely wrong because time cannot be reversed.
Oh, correctly represent. Okay.
Time cannot be reversed. So A is not possible. Reason you told is right. Time cannot be reversed. Let's try to eliminate the other options. What is the other option that is not possible? If an object has to travel vertically upwards, do we need to give it initial velocity or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We need.
Yes, you need to project it in the upward direction with some
Sir,
initial
D is
velocity.
wrong.
D.
So D is wrong because
D is
initial D is eliminated. So we have only two options left. Now think in terms of those.
Sir, is it C?
Sir, answer B, sir.
How do you
Sir,
know?
I think it's B.
Okay, how do you know? What is the justification you have for
Sir,
it?
sign convention, sir. When
Yes.
it reaches
Sorry?
zero, it reaches zero at some
Shall we
point.
proceed with some mathematical expressions rather than going with theoretical? In both the cases, it is reaching zero.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Shall we go in with some mathematical equations? Let's see what. So what equation will come to your mind? Because they have given velocity time graph and it is moving vertically upwards under the influence of gravity, which is constant acceleration.
E is equal to U plus AT.
So first equation, V is equal to U plus AT. Object is going in upward direction. U is in this direction. G is in the downward direction. So V is equal to U. Can I write it as minus GT? Because initial velocity and everything, upward direction, I'm taking it as positive. I hope you understood this point, right? So V is equal to U minus GT. So what does it represent? Always try to convert it into a mathematical equation like this. V is on the y-axis, so y is equal to, time is on the x-axis, minus something into x plus c. So y is equal to mx plus c, where m is negative. So m is negative means the graph should be a decreasing graph. Have this in your mind. So that is why B and C both are right. But what exact justification will you give after the point, after the red color point? What comes to your
Sir,
mind?
we have to take into consideration the sign convention.
Yeah, when you take the sign convention, see at the max. So this red color point represents the maximum height. Accepted. After maximum height, what is happening to the particle? The particle is traveling in downward direction. Right. When it is traveling in downward direction, what will happen to it? It will be V is equal to, like, for the downward motion, what will be the equation that you're going to frame?
Sir, is it minus U minus GT?
V is equal to, why is it minus U? See, when it is going to the highest point, at this instant, what is the initial velocity?
Sir, it's still U because it is not experience any drag or something.
But that's not the thing, no? Because see, when it goes to the highest point, its velocity is going to get reversed. Right? Its velocity is going to get reversed. You're accepting that? So when it is going to get reversed, the initial velocity for the reverse journey is 0. Why? Because it is coming to momentary rest at that particular point. So V is equal to U plus AT. Now for the reverse journey, that is the downward journey, tell me V is equal to, what is the initial velocity? 0 plus acceleration is minus G into T. If you observe this, it will be minus G into T, means the velocity is increasing, but in which direction? Negative direction. So why is C eliminated?
Increasing in positive then.
Because after it reaches the maximum height, the velocity will increase for sure. According to graph C also, it is increasing, but it should happen in which direction? In the negative direction. So the only option left out is B. Are you guys able to understand how to eliminate? Actually, it is an easy
Yes,
question,
sir.
but if you understand, that's good. So I hope this point is also clear for the downward journey, because when you apply it in some other problem, don't make that mistake of taking it as U. So yesterday's point, what I told you was, if an object is projected with initial velocity U, at the maximum height, the final velocity will be 0 for a moment. Okay, that final velocity being 0 at the maximum height will act as the initial velocity for the downward journey. So I'm repeating it. Final velocity of the upward journey will act as the initial velocity of the downward journey. When that is happening, don't take that velocity as U. But one point is clear, when it is going to come and hit the ground, it is going to hit with the same velocity U in the downward direction, provided there is no non-conservative force, that is, no resistive forces acting. Yes, I hope it is clear. So we'll do one last problem based on graph. There's a slightly tricky question to it. A slightly lengthy one also. You cannot get the answer directly. So write the equations, because you have numbers involved. Okay. So write it down. Two stones are thrown up simultaneously from the edge of a cliff 240 meter high with an initial speed of 10 meter per second and 40 meter per second respectively. Which of the following graph best represents the time variation of the relative position? Relative position means the difference in their position of the second with respect to one. Assume stones do not rebound after hitting the ground and neglect air resistance. Take G is equal to 10 meters per second square. So here they are asking the graph between which two parameters?
Sir, sir,
That, tell me.
I had a doubt in the previous question, sir. When it's coming down, how come G is negative?
Because you have taken downward direction as negative, no? It has nothing to do with downward journey or upward journey. When you're using the sign convention, you have to go by vectors. For that particular question, if you have taken any vector quantity in the upward direction as positive, then any vector in the downward direction will be negative.
Okay.
Okay. So two stones are thrown up simultaneously. So how are you people proceeding? If you observe all the graph, there is one thing that is common. What is it?
Initial velocity is 0.
Initial velocity. No, initial velocity is not 0, ma.
The position, sorry.
Initial relative position is 0. Because the graph is between what? It is relative position, y2 minus y1. It is not only y2 separately and y1 separately. Right? Means they both are starting from the same point. That is for sure. Right? But how do you proceed? You need not, you see, just because you saw the word relative, you need not go with relative velocity and all. Nothing. Even if it comes, don't worry much about it. Relative means difference. That's it. So how do we proceed? Anyone with an idea? They've told ignore air resistance and take G is equal to 10 meters per second square. So you can still use the same. Sorry?
We can eliminate an option, sir.
Like how? What will you do?
C, sir.
C. How?
Sir,
But they're asking
time-
what? They're asking which one represents. No. Here you are able to eliminate only one option. No. I want a better explanation. I'm giving you a hint. So I asked you certain questions. What are they? I told you numbers are involved. We cannot eliminate it here. Unlike the previous question, in the previous question, it was generic value. So we can take any equation we want. Here, since numbers are involved, especially this 8 and 12 are involved, we need to understand what this 8 and 12 is. So here also, if you observe, it is a condition where the object is traveling in the upward direction. It is a vertically upward direction. Am I right? When that is the case, for us, even before we find what is the relative displacement, first we need to understand what is the displacement of individual particle. So y2 represents the displacement of the second particle as a function of time. y1 represents the displacement of the first particle with respect to time. So what have they given? There is a cliff of height, how much value? (240 meters). From the top of the cliff, there are two particles which are projected, 1 and 2, with how much velocity? 10 meters per second and 40 meters per second. Correct? So let's first try to analyze the individual motion of the object. Even before we get into mathematical equation, tell me what is the physics involved behind this. You throw an object vertically upwards, first what will happen to it? It will reach a point which is called as maximum height again, after which it will start traveling back in the downward direction. Accepted? Right?
Yes, sir.
So when that is going to happen, so you always break the journey into two parts, upward journey and downward journey. Let's see what is happening for the upward journey. For the upward journey, can I write displacement of the second particle is equal to, I'm applying S is equal to ut plus half at square in the upward direction. So y2 will be equal to, what is u? Initial velocity is 40 into t plus half into, again I'm taking downward direction to be negative. So whether it is upward journey or downward journey, in both the cases, g is going to be negative, minus g into t square. Any doubt in this equation what I wrote? Similarly, y1 will be equal to 10t plus half into minus g into t square. So they asked what is y2 minus y1? y2 minus y1 is 30t because half gt square gets cancelled. So we need a graph between y2 minus y1 and t. So y2 minus y1 is y-axis, t is x-axis. So what does this represent?
Straight line.
It represents a straight line passing through origin.
Origin.
That is why if you observe in every graph they have been very careful not to eliminate that. You're able to see a straight line passing through origin at least till certain point. So first graph, it's a line passing through origin and it has come to this value. Are you able to understand this term? Right? So the initial relative velocity is 30 meters per second. If at all the question had been, what is the initial relative velocity? Obviously it will be 30. We need not even solve this because 40 minus 10 would have given you the answer. But mathematically also we have proved. I hope it is clear till this point. Then what does this 8 second actually represent? So what does this 8 second actually represent?
The time it takes to reach the ground.
Here,
The
at
time
t
it
is
takes
equal
to
time it takes to what? See, since 8 seconds is given in the question, we are getting some ideas in our mind, right? So if I put 8 seconds here, what will you see?
y2 minus y1 240.
y2 minus y1 is 240. Is it happening for everything? So y2 minus y1 is 240. But which graph is failing to do that?
C.
See, had they asked which one is wrong, then the answer would have been C. Okay, but now we need to analyze what exactly happens after the 240 also. Right? So from 8 to 12 seconds, what will happen? So after 8 seconds, first now we need to analyze the individual motion of object. So V1 is equal to U plus U1 plus A1t. Right? So what would have been, when will the first object reach the highest point? Can you find out and tell me when will the first object reach the highest point? Zero, 10 minus 10. V2 is U2 plus A2 into T. So V2 is again 0. What is U2?
40.
Okay. You're able to understand this. So it is after 1 second, they have started traveling. The first object has started traveling in the downward direction. The second object has started traveling in the downward direction after how much time? After 4 seconds. Okay. So there was one particular instance, that is 8 seconds, where the relative displacement between the particles is exactly how much value? 240 meters. Now what exactly is happening between 8 seconds to 12 seconds? Can you tell me? Are you guys able to understand what I'm doing?
Yes, sir. between 8 to 12 seconds, it's coming back down, sir.
It is coming back down, okay. But the question is, how is the graph varying between the relative positions? Okay, do one thing. If this question is actually tricky only, we'll do this later after I discuss relative motion. Remind me, okay? You will get more clarity at that point. Don't worry. Remind me about this question alone after we discuss relative velocity. Don't forget.
Okay, sir.
The other questions which we discussed, you wouldn't have any doubt now.
No, sir.
The other questions were simple
No, sir.
only? Okay. Okay. Don't worry about it. That time I'll tell you because I want you people to think about this. So this is all about one dimension and graph based question. Okay. Next, we are going to discuss projectile motion for today. Okay. Once we discuss projectile motion, in the next class we will start relative velocity for one dimension and two dimension. With that, motion in a straight line and plane will be over. Okay. Now listen. Now listen, we'll discuss about motion in a plane. So when we are talking about motion in a plane, we are talking about a particle which is actually projected in a two-dimensional space, right? So you have x-axis, y-axis, there is a particle which is projected like this. You know all these things, right? So the initial velocity has two components. What are they?
U cos theta, U sin theta.
Sin theta.
So u cos theta and u sin theta. If I ask you to speak about the physics behind this particular concept, what will you say? The object is projected from point O, it reaches the maximum height, then what will happen to it?
Retraces the same path.
It retraces the same path. How do you know it retraces the same path?
Due to negligible air resistance.
The
Due
graph
to
is a
negligible
parabola.
Graph is parabola, we have to prove. Till now we don't know. Right? We are able to see that the trajectory is looking like a parabola, but we have not mathematically proved it, right? So ignoring the air resistance, yes, that kind of a thing will happen because the energy is still conserved. So it is going to reach the maximum height. Listen, I'm not going to concentrate on the formula concept and all. I'm going to concentrate on the methods of solving or approaching problem based on projectile motion. So listen to me carefully. If suppose I want to find the maximum height of the object, how will you do? Suppose I want to find out H max. What will you do? What comes to your mind? Since you people told me ignoring air resistance, then we can say that the object is moving under a constant acceleration of g.
We have to take all the vertical components into consideration.
Yes. So H max is a vertical component. So apply V square is equal to U square plus 2AS in which direction? In the Y direction.
Y direction.
When you take it in the Y direction, what will happen? At the highest point, wherever you see highest point, the vertical component of velocity is always a zero. So it is 0 is equal to, what is the vertical component of initial velocity?
Yes.
U sin theta the whole square plus 2 into, what is the acceleration of the object?
Minus T.
Yes, that's right. Into, what is the displacement of the object in the Y direction?
H max.
So H max will be equal to U square sin square theta divided by 2g. Right? So this is the one you would have learned last year already and you know this, right? So this is the concept we are trying to approach with equations of motion, because we know it is moving under a constant acceleration. But see, I want to bring in some other concepts from different chapters to solve the same, to solve for the same maximum height. So what did I say about the motion of this object? It is moving under a constant acceleration. So you have heard the words like conservative and non-conservative forces, right? Conservative force and non-conservative force. You have heard this or not? You have discussed this. So what exactly do you mean by conservative force? Do you guys remember this? What do you mean by conservative force? So conservative force is the one where the work done by force in a round trip is 0. You know this, right? Work done by a force in round trip is 0. Similarly, when you talk about non-conservative force, work done by force in a round trip is non-zero. Can you give me some examples of conservative force? You have learned this year also. In your 12th standard also there is one conservative force.
Electrostatic force.
So electrostatic force is conservative in nature. Similarly, if you recollect from previous year, gravitational force is conservative in nature. Spring force is conservative in nature. So to put it in very simple terms, whichever force, or you see, the work done by whatever force is not dissipating energy, then that particular force is called as conservative force. So what are all the forces in the nature that will have the tendency to take away energy? They are called as resistive forces as well. That is friction, air resistance, and viscous force. So these are all the forces which are non-conservative in nature. So why I'm explaining all these things is, whenever there is motion of an object under the influence of conservative force, you can always go with the concept of energy conservation theorem as well. Do you remember this? What does energy conservation theorem state?
Change in kinetic energy is equal to the work done.
That is actually work energy theorem. What you told is work energy theorem. Because you're using the word work, no? Here there is no work, only energy is there. So energy conservation theorem states something like this. Please write it down. Please write it down. If the system is subjected, if an object is subjected to, write it down. If an object is subjected to conservative forces, if an object is subjected to conservative forces, the total mechanical energy in the bracket, you can write it as kinetic energy plus potential energy. I'm repeating it. If an object is subjected to conservative forces, the total mechanical energy, that is the kinetic energy plus potential energy of the system, is always conserved. Is always conserved. So I hope you understood the statement. So many of them get confused between energy conservation and energy conservation theorem. Energy conservation states like this: energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. It can be converted from one form to another. Whereas energy conservation theorem mainly speaks about the total mechanical energy. So when I say total mechanical energy, it is nothing but kinetic energy plus potential energy. I hope the statement is clear. Give me a confirmation, yes or no. Is there any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. Then, now I'm going to analyze the situation under which this object is moving. So, we have taken a condition where an object is moving under the influence of whom? Moving under the influence of gravity. Now I will recollect. Is gravitational force conservative in nature or non-conservative in nature?
Conservative.
Yes, it is conservative. When it is conservative, am I allowed to use energy conservation or not? I can use it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. When that is the case, observe what I'm going to do. So what is the total energy of the object at point O? What is the total energy of the object at point O? So O is the initial point. Yeah. If it is 0, how is the object flying? If let's say the mass of the object is m, see, concentrate guys, I'm giving you a different perspective to think, concentrate. If there is doubt, ask. So if the object's mass is m and its initial velocity is u, whenever you have an object of mass m and it has initial velocity, what are all the physical quantities that you can assign to that particular object?
Momentum.
You can think about linear momentum and in terms of energy. Yes.
Kinetic energy.
So what is the initial energy the object is having?
Half mu square.
It is half mu square plus what is the potential energy at point O?
0.
0.
0. See, whenever I ask you a question about potential energy, you should always take reference line. That is what we would have done in electrostatic potential energy also. We would have taken the reference line outside from infinity to some point inside, right? So don't forget this. So if I take the answer, what you told would have been 0, provided I would have taken the ground as the reference line. Correct? Huh? So if you take the ground as reference line, yes, what you're saying is right. So I'm taking it as 0. I hope this point is clear. Let me take it as first point. Now tell me, the object is traveling. The object is traveling in whatever path you call, the so-called parabolic path, that is able to reach this highest point. When it has reached the highest point, what are all the energies the object is possessing? So the total energy at point A is how much?
mg.
It is mg into h max plus. This is the potential energy. What about kinetic energy? Is the object not having any kinetic energy at this point?
No.
No, sir.
If it is not having kinetic energy, means it has 0 velocity. So remember, kinetic energy and velocity are related. Whenever you say kinetic energy is 0, velocity is 0. If the velocity of an object at a certain height is 0, it would have actually got dropped down. No, it should have traveled in a straight line path. But how is it able to continue to move in a parabolic path? Means the logic is saying that there is some velocity existing. But what is existing here? It is the horizontal component of velocity, which is u cos theta. So make a clear note of this. Whenever there is an object which is traveling in a projectile motion, or whenever you have a projectile motion, the horizontal component of velocity is always a constant, because the velocity of an object can be changed only if it is accelerating or decelerating. Since there is no horizontal force acting on the system, its horizontal velocity is always a constant. I hope you're able to understand this. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now tell me what is kinetic energy. Plus half.
mu cos theta whole.
Very good. U cos theta square. Every one of you, are you clear with this? Yes.
Sir.
Now see what I'm going to do is. Yeah, tell me. Rahul, is there a doubt?
No, sir. No, sir. No.
Okay. So I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay. I'm talking about total mechanical energy. Since the force acting on the system is conservative in nature, can I put a statement like this? Total energy at point O is equal to the total energy at point A accepted. So what is the total energy at point O? Half mu square is equal to mg into h max plus half m u square cos square theta. Correct? M is gone. So half into u square I'm taking out common. If u square cos square theta comes to the left hand side, it will be 1 minus cos square theta is equal to g into h max. So 1 minus cos square theta is what?
Sine square theta.
So u square sine square theta divided by 2 is equal to g into h max. So what is h max? U square sine square theta divided by 2g. Are you getting the same expression? U square sine square theta by 2g. Here also you will get u square sine square theta by 2g. Is it clear? Are you able to understand this?
Yes,
So
sir.
there is reason. Okay. So the reason why I explained this is if you are solving a problem based on kinematics, you will not get stuck with kinematics itself. You can bring in the knowledge from other chapters also. So that's what they expect. Okay. So I hope energy conservation theorem is also cleared on this particular topic. No doubt related to it, right? So please make a note of it. I'll give you another important point. Finished? Finished?
1 minute, sir. 1 minute.
Okay, please. Right. Done?
Yes, sir.
Now see. So write an important note. When we apply energy conservation theorem, sign convention is not taken into consideration. When we apply energy conservation theorem, sign convention is not taken into consideration. In the bracket, you can write it down like this: since energy cannot be negative. Only work done can be negative. Okay. Since energy cannot be negative, we do not take sign into consideration. Okay. That is why if you see, I didn't say whether the object is traveling upwards or downwards. I only took plus sign and I put it. I hope it is clear. Similarly, if I ask you about the time of flight, means how much time does it take for the particle to go from point O to point B? Because what is the time of flight, guys?
Sir, is it time of ascent
So,
minus time of descent?
So time of ascent is time of descent is right. So what equation will you apply to derive this expression? What all equations come to your mind? There are only three equations, right? V is equal to U plus AT. Then
S is equal to ut plus.
yes, S is equal to UT plus half AT square. So now we need to look for the expression. Since we are asking about time of flight, I can think of first equation or the third equation that I've written here. So which one is better? So generally the first equation is taken into consideration only when you have the concept of highest point. Okay. So when you take the third equation into consideration, what can we do? For that, let us analyze. Okay. So what is the initial position of the object? It is at origin. What is point B according to coordinate geometry? It is r comma 0. Accepted? So initial
Yes,
point
sir.
is 0 comma 0. Final point is r comma 0. But what is common in both?
Y component is 0.
The y component of the displacement is 0. Means when the object is going from 0 to B, the displacement of the object in y direction is how much? 0. So applying S is equal to ut plus half at square along which direction? Y direction. What do we get? Sy is equal to uy into t plus half into what is the acceleration of the object in y direction? Minus g. So minus g into t square. Okay. So what is the displacement of the particle in y direction? 0 is equal to what is the initial velocity along y direction? It is u sine theta into, if I take the time to be t, the other expression will be minus gt square divided by 2. So which implies t into u sine theta minus gt divided by 2 is equal to 0. Is there any doubt till this step? So
No,
observe.
sir.
You get two values of time t is equal to 0 and t is equal to 2u sine theta by g. So what does this t is equal to 0 represent?
At initial point, the time.
Yes. So where did we start the derivation with? We told the displacement of the particle is 0. If you observe the total motion, tell me what are all the 2 points at which the displacement is 0? One is
O.
at point O, that is nothing but the initial point, and the other is at point B, which is after covering a range R. Correct? So that is why you are getting t is equal to 0, where displacement along y direction is 0, and this is another point where displacement is 0, and this time is what is called as what? This is what is called as time of flight. Correct? You're able to relate all these concepts. You're able to think. Okay, it is 2u sine theta divided by theta. Now, the last concept that we need to see is the horizontal range. So, what is the horizontal range acting on the object? Horizontal range is represented by capital R. Tell me, what is the horizontal range, guys? How do we derive this? Applying S is equal to ut plus half at square along which direction?
X direction.
Along x direction. If you do this, what is the final value you will get? So displacement along x direction is r is equal to, what is the initial velocity along x direction? U
U cos theta.
Cos theta.
Yes, u cos theta into how much time is it taking for the particle to reach the range? It takes the time of flight plus half into what is the acceleration of the particle along x direction? I already told you.
0.
It is 0. So 0 into t square, this is gone. And let's not worry about it. So u cos theta into what is the time? 2u sine theta divided by g. You have to remember this expression. So u into u square. So 2u square sine theta cos theta divided by g. 2 sine theta cos theta. So the range of the particle will be u square sine 2 theta divided by g. Accepted?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there are many questions which are framed on the concept of a range. Okay. Now the question is special cases. First, when is range maximum?
And theta is 45 degrees.
How did you know this? So if range has to be maximum, r is equal to u square sine 2 theta divided by g. R is max when? Under what scenario is R max? When? Who's the deciding factor in the equation mathematically?
Sine.
Theta.
So when sine 2 theta is maximum, what is the maximum value of sine theta that we know? It is 1.
1.
Right? So 2 theta should be equal to 90, which implies theta should be equal to 45 degrees. Why I took a particular solution and not general solution is because here all the angles that we are dealing is going to be in terms of, it is going to be acute only. Because we are concerned about the motion of an object within a particular quadrant. So within a particular quadrant, the range is going to be between 0 to 90 degrees. That is, theta is equal to 45 degrees. Right? Is this the only way? If at all you want to think if you want to think in terms of mathematics, how will you do this? We are using the word maximum.
Differentiate.
Differentiate with respect to what?
With respect to theta.
Yes, with respect to theta, because r will be a function of theta, that is u square sine 2 theta by g. Differentiate r with respect to theta, equate it to 0. From this, you will get theta value, and that will give you the maximum value. Are you able to understand? That is also even one step only, not a big deal. I'll do in flow. So that will be u square by g is a constant, derivative of sine 2 theta. 2 cos 2 theta. Correct? Because derivative of sine is cos, derivative of 2 theta is 2. So 2 cos 2 theta is equal to 0, which implies cos 2 theta is equal to 0. When is cos 0?
90 degrees.
You're getting it? Theta is equal to 45 degrees. If you want to verify whether it is maximum or minimum, you can do the double derivative test and verify it. But my objective is to relate every concept and explain it here. Are you guys able to understand? Right? You're able to think, right?
Yes, sir.
Going forward, you will apply all these concepts. So range is maximum when theta is equal to 45 degrees. Now another question. If two objects are projected with same velocity, for them to have same range, the angles of projection should be how much? If two objects are projected with same velocity, for them to have the same range, what should be the angles of projection? So listen, this also I'll show. You people completely forgot 11th or didn't study at all. What is the truth? Forgot, huh? So how to do this? R1, if I call it as u1 square sine 2 theta 1 by g, R2 is u2 square sine 2 theta 2 by g. There is a mistake in my equation, correct?
The velocities are the same.
U is same.
there is no u1 and u2 concept. Right, when this is happening, what are we expecting? R1 is equal to R2, which implies sine 2 theta 1 will be equal to sine 2 theta 2 because u square by g will get cancelled. If sine A is equal to sine B, okay, if sine A is equal to sine B, I can write it like this. A is equal to B, or I can write sine A is equal to sine of B can be written as 180 minus B because sine 180 minus theta is also sine theta. I can write A is equal to 180 minus B. Correct? You're able to understand what I'm saying? Apply the same logic here. 2 theta 1 should be equal to 2 theta 2, which implies theta 1 is equal to theta 2, or 2 theta 1 should be equal to what? 180 minus 2 theta 2. So what is theta 1? Theta 1 will be equal to 90 minus theta 2. Theta 1 plus theta 2 is how much? So when this kind of a scenario of equal ranges is supposed to happen, what should be the relation between the angles? The angles are supposed to be complementary with respect. Yes, they are say complementary angles. Is it clear, guys? Yes. So this is all about maximum height, time of flight, and range. Okay. There is another concept which is called as equation of projectile, which we'll see next. We'll try to solve few problems which are based on this concept. So before we start solving the problem, write down the summary of all the formulae. H max u square sine square theta divided by 2g, where theta is angle of projection with respect to what? Horizontal, because in the question sometimes they will twist and ask vertical also. That time you should not apply this formula. Rather, you should apply 90 minus theta. Be careful with that. Similarly, range is u square sine 2 theta divided by g. That is the range. Time of flight is 2u sine theta divided by g. I hope it is clear. Shall we start? Yeah, sure. We'll start solving few problems. See, problems will be very easy. Okay, don't worry about it. So there is a 2019 shift 2 question. Observe. There are two particles that are projected from the same point with same speed u, such that they have the same range r, but different maximum heights h1 and h2. Which of the following is correct? Very simple. So it's the last concept that we discussed. So u is same, r is same. H1 is equal to u square sine square theta 1 by g. What is h2? U square sine square. Correct? If one angle is theta, the other angle is supposed. Yes.
90 minus theta 1.
Yes. 90 minus theta 1 divided by g. Correct? So h2 will be equal to u square cos square theta 1 by g, and this is u square sine square theta 1 by g. If you look at all the expressions that they have asked, it does not have theta involved in it because it is not given in the question. Okay. Suppose I write the formula for r. R is u square sine 2 theta 1 divided by g. Accepted. Now see. If you observe every expression, they have h1 into h2 and r square. So find out what is r square. R square is u power 4 sine square 2 theta 1 divided by g. Let this be equation number 1. What is h1 into h2? That is u power 4 into sine square theta 1 into cos square theta 1 divided by g
Sir,
square.
H1 வந்து u square sin square theta 1 by 2g தானே சார் வரணும்?
2g, sorry. Yeah. So it is 4g square. Did I write it wrong? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So H1. So sin square theta 1 into cos square theta 1 divided by g square. So how will you write sin theta into cos theta in terms of sin 2 theta? You need to multiply and divide it with
2.
2. But here you have sin square. So
Four,
multiply and
sir.
divide 4. So when you multiply and divide it with 4, you will get it as u power 4. I am directly writing it. Sin square 2 theta 1 divided by 4 into 4 is 16g square. So let this be second expression. So second divided by first will give us what? U power 4 sin square. So second divided by first will give us, or I will take the 16 to the other side. 16 into h1 h2 will give us r square. So is there an option? Yes. I hope it is easy. Just applying the formula and a little bit of mathematical manipulations. Okay, shall I proceed to the next one? Now listen. A shell is fired from a fixed artillery gun with an initial speed u such that it hits the target at a distance r from it. If T1 and T2 are the values of time taken by it to hit the target in two possible ways, then the product of T1 into T2 is. If you read the question carefully, read it. No, you tell me what is that you have understood. Tell me. So, what does this keyword hit the target in two possible ways mean? What are they trying to say? Shell is, okay, take it as a bullet, as fired from a gun with an initial speed u such that it hits the target on the ground at a distance r from it. So,
Sir,
what
does
is...
it mean?
Tell me.
Sir, does it
mean?
mean that it undergoes two motion? It
No,
can
it is
have
the
two
same.
motion for
It is the same projectile motion only.
Sir, does it break or something?
Nothing. Here there is no concept of breaking. Both the shells are different. The thing is such that it hits the target on the ground at a distance r from it. What do we mean by that? Means the range is fixed. The angles of projection are changed. So indirectly they are telling you that there are two angles of projection. What are they? Theta 1 or theta and
90 minutes.
that is what they are saying. Now can you solve it? So if you observe, r is equal to u square sine time taken for the first particle to hit the ground is 2u sine theta by g. Then what will be the time taken for the second particle to hit the ground at the same range? 2u sine of 90 minus theta by g. I hope this gave you some clarity. So that is 2u cos theta divided by g. This is T2. What is range? R is equal to u square sine 2 theta divided by g. So what they're asking, the product of T1 and T2. So T1 into T2 is equal to 4u square sine theta cos theta divided by g. So you have sine theta cos theta. You need to multiply it with 2. Do you have a 2 already existing? There is a 4, right? Break it into 2 parts.
Sir, G square in denominator.
Yeah, g square, sorry. Sine 2 theta divided by g square. So 2 sine theta cos theta. So 2 sine theta cos theta is going to give you sine 2 theta. So 2u square sine 2 theta divided by g square is T1 into T2. Correct? But what is, so this can I write it as 2 divided by g into u square sine 2 theta by g. What is u square sine 2 theta by g?
R.
R.
So 2r divided by g is the answer, and the option is fourth one. Okay. Shall I proceed to the next one?
Yes, sir.
Equation of projectile, hold, projectile motion on inclined plane, hold. No, fifth one. The position vector of a particle changes with time according to the relation r of t is equal to 15t square plus 4 minus 20t square j cap. What is the magnitude of the acceleration at t is equal to 1? This is a very, very simple question. Do it, guys. They've given you displacement. They're asking the acceleration. If you observe, displacement is a function of time. What will you do?
Differentiate.
How many times?
2 times. Sir. 2 times.
Yes. You do it once, you get velocity. You do it again, you get acceleration. Okay. So what is dr divided by dt? That is 30t I cap. So don't forget this I cap. Okay. 30t I cap plus minus 40t j cap. Correct? Similarly, d square r divided by dt square will be 30 I cap minus 40 j cap. Accepted? So they're asking what is the acceleration at t is equal to 1. So this is the acceleration vector. So magnitude will be how much? Root of 30 square plus 40 square. We know that 30, 40 and 50 are Pythagorean triplet. So answer is 50. So and one more thing that is to be kept in your mind is the object moving under constant acceleration or varying acceleration.
Constant.
Yes, it is constant because it is independent of time. That's right. Right. Moving on to the next question. Sixth one. The position of a particle as a function of time is given by x of t is equal to at plus bt square minus ct cube, where a, b, c are constant. When the particle attains zero acceleration, then its velocity will be equal to what? So when the particle attains zero acceleration, at that instant, what would have been the velocity of the particle? Tell me one thing, is there a scenario possible like that? The acceleration of particle is zero, but the velocity is still going to exist.
Uniform velocity.
Yes, maybe initially the object would have got accelerated, then it would have started attaining uniform velocity. So how to do this? Dx by dt, how much? A plus 2bt minus 3ct square. D square x by dt square is 2b minus 6et. So when this is 0, what is the value of time? b divided by 3c. Right? That is what they told, no? When acceleration is 0. So acceleration is 0 at the instant t is equal to b divided by 3c. What would have been the velocity of the particle? Means take b by 3c and substitute it here. What will you get? A plus 2b square divided by 3c minus b square divided by 3c. So a plus b square divided by 3c. Is there an option like that? Okay. I'll be back. Shall we move on to the next problem?
Yes, sir.
So the radius of curvature also I will explain it later. As of now, let's hold it. Now let's do 8-1. Two guns A and B can fire bullets at a speed of 1 kilometer per second and 2 kilometer per second respectively. From a point on a horizontal ground, they are fired in all possible directions. The ratio of maximum areas covered by the bullet on the ground fired by the two guns will be. The ratio of maximum what? Areas. Right. When will the area be maximum? Visualize this question. So when a bullet is fired like this, it is going to have range. But if it is fired in all the directions, then what will be exactly formed at the bottom? What will be formed at the bottom? Means the bullet can hit here, the bullet can hit here. I'll keep all red spots. See, the bullet can hit here. It can hit anywhere in all the directions, but it will hit the ground such that it has maximum area. So what exactly will be at the bottom when you see from the top view?
Circle.
It will be a circle. Very good. And what will be the radius of that circle?
Range.
Yes. So when they are asking maximum area, they are asking the ratio of the maximum areas for the circle which have maximum radius, which is indirectly nothing but maximum range. So we know the condition for maximum range, guys. What is it? Theta is equal to 45.
45 degrees.
When you take theta is equal to 45 degrees, that is u square sine 2 theta divided by g. What will you get?
U square by G.
U square by G.
So that is the maximum range. So A1 is to A2. They are asking covered by the two guns. Since smaller is to bigger, yeah, that's right. So it is U1 square divided by G divided by U2 square divided by G, the whole square. Did you understand what I did? I wrote it as pi r square, where r is the range. So U1 square divided by G square by pi into U2 square divided by G square. This and this will get cancelled. G is gone. So U1 square is how much? 1. 1 square is still 1 divided by U2 square is 4. 4 square is 16. I hope it's clear. So this is also a 2019 problem, 10th Jan. I think this year also they asked something. It was a simple question. I'll verify and get back on this. Okay, shall I move on to the next one, guys? So equation will hold. So these are all the problems that are based on the maximum height, projectile motion and range. So I'll be giving you DPPs. You can work on those for this week. Any doubts, you can upload it in the Google form. I'll clear it off. Okay. So next class we'll be discussing about the equation of projectile, radius of trajectory, and what will happen to the motion of a projectile on inclined plane. Okay. Is it clear, guys? Any other doubt from today's session?
No, sir.
No, right? I hope it is not tough. You're able to understand? So only thing you need to practice more. From what I have understood, you people have forgot 11th standard. You have to trust us and do whatever assignments we give. It will definitely give you confidence. But if you don't try, obviously it will go down. So be in track with whatever content is going in the class. So if I give you a DPP, ensure it is completed before the deadline. And get all your doubts clear so that you will have continuity for the next lesson. Is that right?
Yes.
Will you do it? Yeah. Good. So I'll see you in the next class. So tomorrow you have your class. Tomorrow morning and I want you people to interact because a new teacher is going to come according to you. You have to interact with them. Trust me, he's a very good teacher. Okay, you have to interact, speak much, ask all your doubts and get it clarified. Okay. No more doubts, shall we wind up?
No doubt, sir.
Okay, then we can wind up.
So will you give us another DPP today?
Yeah, I will. I'll be giving it based on projectile motion. So whatever has been taught, if you have problem based on trajectory or radius of curve, whichever is not taught, you need not do it. Okay. So, but whichever is explained in today's class, like you will need to do the problems related to that.
So will you send the notes also, the derivations?
Yeah, I will send it. This note. See, what I will do is I will not send it in WhatsApp. I'll be uploading in the app itself, where there will be a page called as study material. So you can go through it whenever you want. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'll wind up, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.